Hey everyone, welcome to today's Love Transformation class. Sometimes our journey to creating a beautiful soul level partnership requires a whole heap of work, and sometimes it requires just identifying some small things that we might be doing wrong or sabotaging our chances at love. And I'm excited to have a conversation today about what some of those things are that we're doing wrong and sabotaging our relationship, and we might not know about them. And I have the beautiful Natasha here, a love coach and expert on all things dating and relationships. And she's going to share some of these things that might give you a beautiful revelation or new insight that could be the thing that actually creates a shift for you this year. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you.
Yay. So do you want to just share a little bit about how you ended up working in this field? You're based in the US and you've been coaching women for a while. What inspired you to become a love coach?
Yeah, so it was actually my own personal love journey, my own personal experience. I had a spiritual awakening when I was like 21. So I met my first love in Italy when I was 19, and that was such a beautiful experience. And when I came back from that trip, I actually ended up in this like toxic relationship with a narcissist, and that was again, the beginning of my awakening, and it really it was like my dark night of the soul. And after I healed from that, I attracted like this same guy, same lesson type of experience. And so I realized there was some deeper work that had to be done. And a lot of what was happening was I was just recreating the trauma that I had as a child with my father. And I was just trying to seek his love through these different partners. So I really did a lot of work with the wounded inner child and becoming that empowered, confident woman. And it was like in January of 2016 or February of 2016 when I got this download from my higher self and my spirit guides, because again, this is when I was having my spiritual awakening, that I was meant to call in my twin flame. So I was like a second semester senior in college at like James Madison University, and like no one around me like knew about any of this stuff. So it was just me doing this on my own, thinking I was a little bit crazy. But I just kind of followed the guidance that I was given. And I ended up manifesting him and calling him in July of 2016. And that was like an even deeper awakening for me. And that's when I had a realization like, oh, this is my purpose. I'm meant to help women with love and relationships and help them call in their life partner and their true soulmate. So,
What I love about the way that you work with women is you also are able to draw upon your experience as an energy healer as well, which makes you really quite intuitive for each of your clients as to the things that they need to identify and shift, the things that they may actually be doing wrong or self-sabotaging. And we're going to talk about some of the really common ones today, which is amazing. And I know something that you've spoken about before for those people who happen to be following you on Facebook. If they're not already, they should be. But you talk about the difference between waiting versus receiving, and how we might not realize there is a difference, and how that's maybe not helping us manifest a partner.
yeah, so this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see. I see a lot of smart, successful women, and they're waiting for their guy to magically match with them on Hinge, but they're not doing any inner work to get into alignment with him. And so often they'll say things like, oh, I'm just waiting for this amazing guy to come into my life to sweep me off my feet. Maybe they're not saying that exactly, but that's the energy behind it, right? It's kind of like that princess program of like, I'm waiting for that like prince or that knight to come and rescue me. And then they say, I know it'll happen in divine timing. And, that's the energy of waiting. Essentially, if you're waiting for your man, you're just going to be waiting forever because like attracts like. So waiting attracts waiting. And when I was calling in love, it was actually a very proactive process. Like every night, I would have to get into the vibration of love and really set the intention that I'm connecting to this person. I'm calling him in. And I made like a divine declaration to the universe, right? That we are going to meet within the year, and I'm going to get into the vibration of love as often as I can, multiple times a day, especially morning and night, because those are the most powerful times to reprogram your subconscious. Yeah, so divine timing doesn't mean what people think it means. People think it means, this is going to happen when the divine decides that it's time, but it really means when you're an energetic match to something. So you actually have to be, you can't be waiting around for him. You have to be in this energy of like, I'm already in the frequency of love and I'm ready to receive him. And then it's going to happen. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. And that's something that we need to do intentionally, right? It's not just us going about our regular business. It's just expecting that suddenly someone's going to throw themselves on the bonnet of their car and go, hey, I'm your soulmate, right?
Yeah, no, and that's also why sometimes I have clients, like actually all the time, I have them create this like romance ritual for themselves. Like they're every evening, like after work, they have to set aside like 1 hour for themselves where they use my meditation, which you're going to get access to in this training called Aligning with Divine Love. And they have to carve this time out of their schedule to get into that frequency so that they are in alignment with receiving that love and they're not just waiting around for him to come in.
And it really is, in my experience, the single most important thing that I've noticed between the women that have manifested a partner and the women that still haven't is they were just, for whatever reason, able to get themselves into that frequency where they're aligned and energetic match for what they want. And they had clarity on what
Yeah.
they wanted, which is another issue or mistake sometimes that people are making, right?
Yeah, so I can't tell you how many women come to me with this like arbitrary list of what they want in a partner, and then they're like, "Where is he? I wrote my list." And so, one of the things that I remember someone writing on their list was like, "He will be attractive and attracted to me," which is great. We obviously want a partner who we're attracted to and who's attracted to us, but that I had to explain to her like that doesn't make me feel anything, you know. So I shared with her instead, what if you wrote something like, we share a deep soul connection and we're so attracted to each other on all levels, like physically, sexually, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. We can talk for hours about anything and everything. And he looks at me like he's been looking for me his whole life. And he makes me feel like the most beautiful, desirable woman in the world. Like that makes me feel sexy. That makes me feel something, right? And that's the whole point of actually having a list, is to just get into the feeling state as if we already have it, not to have like, these are the qualities I want in him. Where is he? Again, it's like, that's still that waiting energy too. It's like you're using this technique of automatic writing to really get into that feeling state and have all that clarity, because that's when it's going to come in, when you're so clear on the feeling, on how he's going to make you feel. And another exercise that I love to give with this is like, what's your first date? What is your first date going to feel like 3 to 6 months from now when you finally meet him? Because like essentially we want to collapse time, right? So we want to call him in like within 6 months. So what's your first date going to feel like when you finally meet your person 3 to 6 months from now? And kind of like journal on that. And I always say, like, if you can't write 5 to 10 pages on this, like, and just like it's flowing out of you, then you don't actually have enough clarity on what you want, and that's why you don't have it yet.
So the list, right? Let's get really clear. Should we or shouldn't we be writing he's 6'3" and he has dark hair and brown eyes and he works in this and he's this and he enjoys this and listens to this music and eats this food? Do we get that specific? Because I know it's about the feeling. What's your take on that?
So that's really interesting. So I actually did what, like in 2016, what I did was I kind of connected to my soul. And then I was just, because your soul already knows who your soulmate is, right? So you don't need to like, you just have to connect to your soul. And I did end up writing like, okay, well, I'm only attracted to one type, and that's dark brown hair, dark brown eyes, tall. So I'm sure my soulmate will have those qualities, which he did, right? So I did write that down. But ultimately, like, that doesn't matter. It really just matters that how he makes you feel. Like, he makes me feel cherished, adored, and seen and heard and understood. And so I would focus more on the feeling, but you can, if you want, like, write down, the qualities, but it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, yeah. What I've noticed though, and I guess we all have differences in terms of the primary senses that we use the most. So some people are very visual, some people are very kinesthetic, so they're very feeling. And when we go into that meditative state and imagine our ideal partner, for some people it's easier to imagine what they would feel like, and for some people it's easier to imagine what they might look like too. But that's a really good tip. That's where you might be able to inform your list by actually
Yeah.
going within first.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I think I did both. I did one arbitrary list, and then, but that didn't call him in. So that was the mistake, is like just doing that one list of like, he's tall, dark, and handsome, and, I even put his Myers-Briggs on there, and it turns out that was his Myers-Briggs. It was so detailed. But that's not what calls him in. It's great to know that, but what actually calls him in is the second list almost of how he's going to make me feel.
Let's move on to point number 3 is another, well, I guess a really important cluster of mistakes that we're making that we might not be aware that we're making, to do with mixed signals.
Oh yes, mixed signals. So this is essentially like the energetic and more of the energetic and behavioral tweaks that need to happen. So for example, I'll see women and they want soulmate love, but they're having these mediocre conversations again with that guy on Hinge that they don't even connect with. So I'm like you're sending mixed signals to the universe. You're saying you want this like deep electric love, but you're just like settling and you're wasting your time and energy talking to a guy who doesn't excite you, right? So the universe is a bit confused with your behavior because it's responding to you and your actions and your alignment and everything. So when I was ready to like call in the one, I kept my frequency like very pure and aligned. For example, I wasn't going to be intimate with guys if I knew they were going to mess up my energy, because that would tell the universe that I'm not actually serious about calling in my soulmate. I'm not actually serious about calling in my person. And then he would keep that person far, far away from me, essentially. So that was one of the behavioral tweaks that had to happen. Or another one was like, again, not wasting time talking on Bumble to guys who don't even excite my soul. A lot of women are just like, oh no, I think I'll give him a chance. I don't really like our conversations though, but maybe in person it'll be different. If he's already not exciting your soul, he's not your soulmate. So it's just like, so not sending those mixed signals, just being very clear of like to the universe in your own behavior. And the other one was like, getting relationship advice from girlfriends who are not doing the work and like complaining about men with them. That's just telling the universe that you again want your person far, far away from you. So we have to change our behavior so that we're not sending these mixed messages to the universe, and the universe understands like in our own actions, like, oh, she's ready. Okay, she's like carving time out every day to listen to this meditation to get into alignment with love. And she's only talking about how, what she wants to experience, like the story that she tells her friends and the conversations. She's not complaining about how there are no good men in her city or how all men suck. She's talking about how grateful she is that she's going to be in her dream relationship and that he's already here. So then, boom, here he is.
Yeah, they are such really important subpoints. So I'm gonna actually recap them because I really want to make sure that everyone gets these. If you really want to call in a long-term, serious, committed relationship, sending the message out to the universe about that, but then on the side you're like, kind of have this fuckboy that you've been seeing a little bit of, and it's nothing serious. Well, you're also sending a mixed signal to the universe that you're okay with just someone who's not committed, and that's the committed relationship is probably not going to show up, right?
Yes, absolutely. No fuckboys.
Okay. The second sub point was wasting time talking online to guys that you're not really interested in. Because it's something to do, and maybe it's a little bit flattering, it's a little bit validating, it's kind of cool to have someone to chat to, but you're wasting time on someone you're not interested in, and the universe is getting confused about that.
Yeah, and a lot of women I feel like do that because they don't want to be alone. They don't want to feel alone. So it feels nice. Oh, well, at least there's this guy that I'm kind of talking to, even though I don't like him that much. And we have to get out of that. We have to be okay with being alone for now, because it really shows the universe, like, I have so much trust and faith that you're going to bring me this person that I'd rather be alone than like deal with anything less than what I want. Yeah.
Okay. And then the third one is really holding in reverence this divine partnership that you want, and calling in this beautiful, high quality, conscious partnership with this gorgeous man, and then going and bitching about men with your girlfriends. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So really important points. I think we're all kind of being guilty at one point or another of doing that. But yes, being careful of the kind of vibration that you're in when you're catching up with your single girlfriends, because often you will want to validate each other that it's really tough and it's hard to meet a man, and normalize being single with each other. But sometimes you can end up on a really low vibration from those catch-ups that puts you out of alignment with your soulmate partnership. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love, it's so sacred. So I don't let my clients have conversations about their love life with their clients if they know those friends are going to bring them down. I'm like, just talk to me or that one friend you have, or like no one else, because this is so sacred. We want to keep that, very pure, that energy very pure.
Okay. So another important area And this is a really sensitive one too. So let's really sort of talk through this in a lot of detail, because I know a lot of the women are going to really relate. We meet a man and we quite like him, and there's a gradual unfolding and sharing of our personal history, perhaps our relationship history or our upbringing. There may be some things that we feel a little bit uncomfortable to share. It's a sensitive one, right? And we might not be getting this right. And I know that you have a story behind this that's really valuable.
Yeah, so oh my gosh, where do I want to start? So when I called in the person, before calling him in, actually, I received guidance that I had to clean up my story and how I was talking about my story, about my past, because it was coming from a very victimized place, because I'd experienced so much trauma. But I knew that when I was going to call in this person on our first date, and how I was going to feel, I was going to be showing up in this very empowered and confident way, and I was going to be able to be very vulnerable with him and um, share what I had experienced, but not from a place where I was a victim or I was still holding on to the past or I still had grudges against any of the exes, but from a place of like, I've learned the lesson and like it's helped me become who I am now and who you're seeing now. So he could see me as a empowered, confident woman who has been through so much and has come out of the other side, someone who he could admire and respect even more, right? And we could share that vulnerable connection with each other. And I had actually made a mistake in the past. Before calling him in, I thought I had called in the one with another guy. And with him, he was just mirroring to me more of my wounds. So I didn't really know how to share what I had been through with him. I kind of shared it from a place of like being a victim, and the ex was like this narcissist and he was abusive, and I experienced PTSD and all this type of stuff, right? And which is the truth. That was the truth. It was a really painful experience that I was in, but the energetics of sharing that didn't really make me feel empowered with him. It kind of just made me feel like uh, I just stuck in that story and I didn't want to be in that story anymore. And I'm glad that I made the mistake with the wrong guy anyway. So that was great. But I really think that the doing this inner work is so important, because when we do the inner work, we're then able to um, receive the lessons from those exes, and then we can kind of clean up that story. And then when we share it with the right person, it just they're just going to see you. They're really going to see you and understand you and get you. And that's what we want. We want to create that vulnerable connection. We want to create that intimacy. And I think if you've been through a really hard time in your relationships, like this is so important to kind of understand, like, how are you going to explain or how are you going to share your past with this person in an empowered way? And so this is actually something that I work on with clients, because a lot of my clients have been through the worst, like abusive marriages and relationships with literal psychopaths. And, they know that they don't want to go into their first date or second date sharing from that victim place, right? So they're going to share it from an empowered place of like, yeah, this is what I went through, but then I worked on myself and I healed and I learned these lessons, and, whatever, this is what I learned from it. And then they're able to form that connection.
And so what happens in that sharing space? Let's unpack what it's like if we haven't done the inner work and we're talking about our relationship history with an abuser or a narcissist or something that was really toxic. Mm-hmm. We talk about that with a potential new boyfriend and we haven't done the inner work. How is that different, and how might he react differently?
Yeah, so I can just literally give an example from what happened to me, but I definitely was more in this like wounded little girl space, needing love and approval and validation and acceptance, and like, oh, I'm so sorry you went through that. And like, I didn't feel empowered. And I think what I told him was, what did I tell him? Just that, my ex really hurt me, and he was, abusive, and I went through PTSD. I think I was drunk too. So, okay, another mistake. Don't be hammered when you tell this story. Yeah, I made so many mistakes. So that's why I'm teaching this. But yeah, I think I was drunk also. So that did not help. And I was crying, actually. And this is when he was telling me he didn't think we were a good fit. I'm like remembering it all now. Sometimes you just like forget the trauma, and then like you go back and you're like, oh God, this is really, really bad. So actually, yeah, this story is really funny. I had seen him kissing another girl in the basement of some frat party, and I was so upset because I really thought he was the one, but I was actually just projecting onto him, mistaking chemistry for connection, and totally in this like fantasy land. And he was telling me how he didn't feel like we were the right fit because I didn't actually know how to create a vulnerable connection with a man at the time. So this experience was really valuable for me to learn what to do and what not to do. And I was again unhealed, so um I felt like I needed him because he was kind of helping me get away from that narcissist guy, and I was using him as a crutch in a way. So that's why I was sharing to him the story of like, but no, like this is an important relationship. Like, you don't know, you helped me so much. Like, I was in a really bad relationship and he was so abusive and narcissistic and all this shit. And, but the way it sounds is very like wounded little girl, right? So he was like, oh, I'm really sorry. That sucks. You don't deserve that. But again, the whole thing was all messed up.
Let's share a little bit with the audience about that journey that you went through to heal from that, and what you felt were the key things that made a difference to be able to then talk about that history with your new partner and feel it comes from an empowered space.
Yeah, so I really had to realize that a lot of it was just like the daddy wound, the father wound. I had to heal my relationship with my father, and heal my inner child and do a lot of the shadow work around love and do a lot of identity work too, and understanding who I am as a woman, because I was really operating in my romantic relationships as like a 7-year-old girl, or maybe even younger, just looking for daddy's love in all of these different men. So I had to do the work to understand who I am as a woman now, and who I am as a partner, and who I am as a lover, and really just shift my entire identity. And when I did that, my story changed as well. So I wasn't coming from this like victim, little girl, wounded space. I think when I told the guy that I had called in, when I told him about it, I don't even think I mentioned the words narcissist, PTSD, abuse. I don't think I mentioned any of that. I think I just was able to share the story of like, I was approaching relationships from a very disempowered place, but then I did the healing work, and then, here I am now. This is the end product, of doing all that healing work. And I can't remember exactly what else I told him, but it was just a huge shift, right? I didn't even feel the need to go into those icky places because I had healed from them. So there was really no need to kind of attach myself to all of that in a sense. Like when you heal, your story kind of changes and evolves as well. And then you don't feel the need to like, take the past with you into the present and like just kind of blurt it out and make it all a mess.
I love that you've pointed out the importance of the story that we're telling ourselves about our past relationships. And if you're listening and if you're still holding on to any kind of story that sounds like my ex left me, my ex was abusive, my ex had an affair, I got dumped, one night he just up and left, anything that's like that, if someone asks you, oh, hey, you're a lovely girl, why are you still single? And if your story is, no, my ex was an abuser or my ex was toxic, if it's anything toxic like that, please, 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 if you keep telling yourself over that over and over and over in your mind and speaking it out loud to other people, it becomes part of your identity. And that's absolutely not what we want, right, Natasha?
Yeah, no. And a lot of it is actually too, the term I think that helps is we want to share a story from a place of like elegant vulnerability, not from the wounded, open, gaping wound, but from like the healed scar. We want to show, and that this is again the identity work of who am I now as a woman, as a partner, as a lover. How do I want to show up and be the self-expressed woman? And I think the term elegant vulnerability kind of like is the perfect way of what we want to embody that. We want to embody elegant vulnerability when we're telling our new story. Yeah. How would like higher self, I think I had asked myself, how would higher self Natasha share this story, share her past with someone to create a connection, to create even more intimacy? Not like, oh, I'm like wounded and hurt and I need you to like validate me. None of that. So they're two completely different vibrations, So yeah, it's really powerful.
I love the sound of that elegant vulnerability. It sounds really beautiful. You touched a little bit on the identity work. What does that involve?
So identity work involves so much. I would say when I was younger, I just wanted a boyfriend, but I had, no idea what my values were, what my true desires were, what my boundaries were. And it was actually only until that relationship with a narcissist that I even realized like what my red flags were, what my boundaries were, what my non-negotiables were, what I was no longer available for, what I was available for. And it was only till the relationship with the other guy that I mentioned, who I really messed things up with, that I realized, what I stand for, what I want in a partner. So these are all like, this is all what makes up your identity, right? And when you know who you are, it's going to be so much easier to call in love because you're going to be a vibrational match. Um, so yeah, it's so important to know like your value system and having a personal boundary system and just knowing yourself inside and out. And that's why like this, my container is all about aligning with love through self-discovery. Um, because again, when you are showing up as that woman, your energy is going to be really clean. You're going to be sending out that signal that's going to attract that match. Yeah. So it's
Beautiful.
like using identity work to shift your frequency.
Beautiful. And you're actually going to be sharing with our audience a beautiful piece of that work that you offer.
Yeah, so I created this meditation. It's called Aligning with Divine Love. It's actually only for my highest level private clients, but I'm going to give it to you guys to listen to. Um, and I have my clients use this meditation every night. Again, like they create their romance ritual. And they could take a bath. This is just like their time, your time for yourself. And I have them use that every night to cleanse their aura and center them in unconditional love and connect soul to soul, to their true divine partner, to experience what the energetics of love feels like. And using it every day, especially at night, is going to reprogram your subconscious so that you're changing your vibration to now call it in.
And it's absolutely beautiful. I listened to it yesterday and really, really enjoyed it. Absolutely stunning meditation. So that's streaming below the video today, along with all of Natasha's social links. And hit the button as well. Jump on Natasha's list for her weekly love notes. And she has some incredible tips, advice, and content to be able to share with you every week on your journey to finding your soulmate. Do you have any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to share with our audience?
I would say that, something that I always talk about and tell my clients is that contrast gives you clarity. So every experience that even I've shared, it's given me clarity. So even if you've made these mistakes, it's given you clarity. Even if you make mistakes in the future, it will give you clarity. So you're always going to get closer to what you want. So, it's just all a gift, really.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your personal story and all of your incredible wisdom. It's been a real inspiration. And thanks again, beautiful, for joining today's Love Breakthrough virtual retreat.